Very well, welcome to the first ever preview. It is the preview with me, Pete Selby, alongside James and Joe. So it's the usual gang if you saw the big show earlier on in the week. So for Fox 8 Podcast presents the preview, and we're previewing the first game of the season. I think it's only right, chaps, that we do the first game because we haven't played it yet. Leicester are currently sat safely in mid-table, right? We haven't played a game. First game tonight, and we're playing against, with the greatest respect, a bit of a basket case in Sheffield Wednesday on Sunday. So we're going to try and get the preview out a good couple of days or 3 days before the game. So we've got Sunday afternoon in what promises to be blazing hot sunshine down at the King Power, and what could well be a very good team to actually play first up, because it's been a horrendous pre-season for them. But we'll mention them in passing, but we'll concentrate obviously on Leicester. The latest news: Wilfred Ndidi sold to Besiktas. Manson's going to go to West Ham. So I think we know roughly what the team might be. But what I want to know, first of all, how are you guys? And secondly, I want to know, who would you actually play on Sunday, and who do you think will play? But for now, just your overview as we build towards the first game of the season. James, I mean, it's going to be a easy win, surely, please.
Well, I mean, you would hope so. They actually haven't had a pre-season. They haven't played any friendlies unless they've played some behind closed doors ones. They've played no public ones. They've only got 16 first-team players, and they have no first-team coaching staff apart from the manager. So if we don't beat these, then we are in some serious trouble, because they're barely a football club at the minute. And yeah, it's very sad and very worrying what is happening at Sheffield Wednesday. And of course, they have sold out they've sold out the away section for Sunday, and they are planning on not coming out for the first 5 minutes in protest at the owner. So it's going to be an interesting game, just because you don't see that very often. And yeah, I mean, you couldn't really have asked for an easier first game.
It's interesting because you hear these protests, you see them on Twitter, you see them on X, Joe, you see them all the time. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And it turns out it never really happens, because people actually go to the game and go, do you know what, sod that, I actually want to sit in my seat and watch the first bit. But I think there might be a little bit more substance to this protest, because maybe it's the first day of the season. Sheffield Wednesday, they always travel in numbers. It's not too far. It's terrible. They've got one stand that they can't use. They haven't had a preseason. They didn't have any pitches to play on originally because the groundsmen weren't there because they weren't paid. They've got a lack of players, etc., etc. I really do feel sorry for them. But for 90 minutes on Sunday, I could not care less.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. I've got tickets, but having bought my ticket for HMS Pistol League as well, everything that James has just said is just making me think that is quite galvanizing when you step on the pitch. So I've got a little bit, I mean, on paper, yeah, it should be an absolute rout for us. It should be a free 3 points to take down our points deduction if and when that happens. But I do think it's got, I mean, I'm getting, flashbacks to when we played Hull after we won the league, and they barely got 13 players together, I think, at the time. So that I'm usually very optimistic, and today I've just suddenly thought, oh, hang on a minute.
You got all nervous. You got all nervous on us.
I don't know what's wrong with me. But yeah, I just suddenly thought, hang on a minute. I still think we're going to win, put it like that. And I do think it's probably going to be a rout. However, I do, you never know, do you? And I just had a little thought today that it might be a tougher test than we're thinking.
Yeah, I think pre-season nerves is everything. And I'll say what I said on the big show in the week, the fact that I reckon that the Coventry game was the most important game of 2 seasons ago. Getting off to that winning start was all important. And in this season, it's a slightly different campaign to what it was 2 years ago with the looming points deduction. I think having a really good start will settle down the team. But also, I think it's vitally important because of who we can still sign. There's a long way to go in the transfer window. There's a long way to go in terms of trying to keep hold of players. If Fatawu hits the ground running, which we hope he does, maybe they'll come in with a super offer, someone from the Premier League or even in Europe. Who knows? It will take a big offer. And hopefully the fact that we stood by him during his injury last season means that there's a bit of a little bit of IOU one, even though it wasn't his fault, but hopefully that comes into play. But also, if we've started on 5, we've started like a train and we've won our first, well, let's say 4 games, 3 or 4 games on the bounce. Why not? And all of a sudden, there's some really good youngsters in the Premier League who are looking for a club to go to. And where better to send your good players than Leicester with the training facilities, etc. And also, if you won the first 3 games, you don't really want to send your players to a bit of a basket case at the start of the season, do you? You might not send them to Sheffield Wednesday, for an example. On today of all days, the day that we actually 10 years ago won our first game of the season against Sunderland, we are, by the way, just a little bit of news on the podcast. For fuck's sake, we've expanded. We now have the big show talking all things Leicester, just a general chat about absolutely anything. Then we're going to have the preview talking about, obviously, previewing the next game. We're going to have an FPL podcast as well, talking all things fancy football. So the FPL, that's underway next week when the Premier League starts. But of course, you can still sign up and there's full details online. You can see that if you follow us on X, follow us on Facebook. You can find all the details on there about how to join our league. And also, we're going to be doing a Champions edition as well. So there's 4 podcasts for the price of none. Because it's all completely free. And we'll have a Champions podcast, which is going through the season. As we go through this season, we'll go through the Champions season as well and talk about the winning of the league and going through all the games one by one and memories of where you were, where I were. And then you can talk about that at home again. So that's what's coming here. And you can now watch the podcast. So if you're listening to this old school on Apple, on SoundCloud, on Spotify, you can watch it now on YouTube. Type in For Fox's Sake Podcast. What you got to do, you got to subscribe. That's what everyone says on these things, don't they? And we've never said before, but now we're going to be banging that out left, right, and centre. Subscribe, and you can watch us do the podcast as well. However you like to listen to For Fox's Sake, there's plenty of shows. The big show, the preview, the FPL show, and Champions 10 years on. That's what we've got to look forward to, and maybe some other podcasts in the future. But yeah, let's continue because we are talking all things Sheffield Wednesday on Sunday. Now, the team, I imagine that Stoyachuk obviously will play in goal with the goalkeeper Manson going to West Ham. I think the back line is quite interesting, James, because I think that's probably where there is a little bit more of a question mark. I think if we move forward from the back line forward, I think it's going to become a little bit clearer as to what more than likely will happen in terms of a starting lineup. But the back line, there's been a few injuries. Ricardo, now captain. I think that's a very sensible decision. I think it's an easy decision. And one person in particular says it was a good decision, and that's Jamie Vardy. So I'm thinking, yes, he did. He said on an Instagram post that it was the right decision, an easy call, etc. So he might be back, but I think he's got a muscle injury, so he probably won't be. Hamza more than likely in that position. But the back line, that's a question mark, James, for me.
Yeah, well, and Christensen is supposedly injured as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same. I wouldn't be surprised if, in general, it was the same team that played against Fiorentina, maybe with Winks in for Skip. Yeah, Hamza will most likely play at right back, playing in that. I don't even know what the technical term is, inverted fullback, where he comes into midfield to make a 3. Akoli, who looks like a really good player, I think he's going to be a starter for most of the season. Vestergaard, he doesn't seem to have fallen out with this manager yet, so that's good news for him. He's kind of a wardrobe that can run. But he is a decent player. And, I've always liked Luke Thomas at left back. I think when Christensen, if he can get up to full fitness, he will be the number 1 choice at left back. James Justin as well, but I don't think he's going to make it. He might make it onto the bench. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same back 4 as played against Fiorentina.
Yeah, I think I still think there's a lot of chops and changes and that to come in the back line. Basically, one of the areas of the team where I think players will come in, I think players will leave, because we could have a back line, Joe, of Chowdhury on one side, maybe Thomas on the other side. I'm not in the camp of Christiansen. I'll drive him anywhere. Like I just don't think he's a very good player. I can't see his strengths. Like the one thing with Thomas, I think we need to kind of take the Thomas hat off of when he was a really young player. Because when he was a young player and he was scared to take throw-ins, etc., and all that sort of thing, and he just completely collapsed as a player at points, which was very strange to see and not great to see. But I think he really has grown up. And to be honest, in the last 8 games of last season, in amongst all the manure, let's put it that way, he actually stood out a little bit. So I'm not afraid to have Thomas at fullback ahead of Christiansen, Joe. I mean, I'm not being funny, but I'd have you at fullback ahead of Christiansen. Do you know what I mean? Centre halves, I think it's, and I don't want to be quite flippant here, or I don't want to basically say that, we're better than anyone else in the league, but I really don't think it kind of matters at the moment. You got Vestergaard, you got a Coley, you've got players who we want to come in, youth players as well, who we want to give chances to. But I think at the moment, it depends on who wants to stay and who wants to go, because a Coley could easily go back to Italy. Vestergaard, someone might come in for him. We've got rid of Cody, which I think is great. We are a podcast, I get it, but my word, if there was ever a club for him to go to, it's Wrexham. So at the moment, I think that centre half position, I think they're all just good enough for the first few games of the season. Am I being a bit disrespectful?
I would. Well, first of all, you could play me as a centre back, but I played football Monday night and I'm still aching, so I'm not sure even I would get away with that. But I just really like to see what I think the back line will be is Thomas, Akoli, Vestergaard, and Hamza. I would like to see Ben Nelson in for Vestergaard, because why not? I mean, Vestergaard's just going to hang around like a bad smell until his contract's up. And I really like the idea of, along with the keeper, 4 of the 5 players have come through the academy. I really like that. I was sort of daydreaming earlier, thinking, could we actually field a whole academy 11? And yeah, I'd take Thomas over Christiansen any day of the week. He's just a better player. He can cross it. He's scored a few good goals for us. I don't really get why he seems to get a lot of hate from certain sections of the fan base. Never got it particularly.
He set up the goal in the cup final.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's done his time for us, and he's just a better player in my opinion. And he's going to be a solid Championship left back for sure. So yeah, I'll be happy with that really. And Connor Cody, he's gone to pursue his podcast career, and good luck to him. You can imagine him enjoying being matey boy with who is it, Deadpool and all the rest of them. Don't get me started on Wrexham. I'm or bloody Birmingham as well, or Yanks in football. But we'll leave that for another day. Can we do a whole show on that, Pete?
I think so. I think so. Although there is one thing with the Birmingham project, and that's the look of the new ground and the whole surrounding area. I mean, the amount of billions that they're going to, potentially put in, so they say, to the area, it's unbelievable. And if they build the facilities in the ground and then they can fill the ground, then I'm a kind of fair play. I don't mind Wrexham, to be perfectly honest. They've got to this level and they might get to the Premier League at some stage, but they're always going to be limited to what they can do, and they're having a good time. And I just think, Cody, we don't want to turn this into a Connor Cody podcast, and we are a podcast, but
he would.
Oh dear. It's a match made in heaven. And the only thing is when he comes out with saying about Leicester in his time, you could turn around and say, look, it was a great club and all this sort of thing, but it was just a disaster for him at Leicester, wasn't it? End of the day, he didn't play when he was selected to be number 1 starter in the defence that was always going to be right up there in the league and ended up winning the league. Didn't play. And then in the Premier League, it was a complete disaster. And now he's gone to Wrexham. Come on. But anyway, he's going to get a job, and it will be great for his career, probably over in America. But there you go, that's one thing. But at the centre of the defence, I just think Vestergaard's very important. He was my Player of the Year 2 years ago in the Championship. I thought he was fantastic because he could take that back step. He could let Walt Vass just run around and do everything. Oh, by the way, we've not even mentioned him. So it's there's a lot there.
Who got booed at the friendly?
Well, he got booed at the friendly. I mean, I'm miles away, and I'm surprised he could hear me. But like, with him, he was, because Walt Vass, he is a good player at Championship level, like he is. And Vestergaard could just manage the high ball, and he was important. He blocks the ball well. He is Yannick Vestergaard, but we're talking about the Championship. I still think he's a very important player. I think he's more important than any other centre half we've got at the club. I know that might sound silly, but again, for his height, we've just lost Wilfred Ndidi, who was in the club for his height. But anyway, I think Yannick Vestergaard is going to be very important. I want to see him play because I want him to be the number one player on the team sheet. And then you maybe have a Nelson or an Okoli or someone alongside him. I just think in the Championship, where there's a lot of big centre forwards, he's very, very important. You need that tall centre half. And also, he's a decent ball playing centre half as well. We know, he's slower than a funeral. It's just, I think at this level, that's very, very important. And then you move further forward. I'm going to come to you, Joe, straight away on this, because I think it's a case of 2 from 3 in the middle of the park. Because I think we all think we're going to play 4-2-3-1. Those 3 are Skip, Winks, and Samare. Who are your 2 from the 3?
Yeah, and it's a bit with a tear in my eye when I was thinking about it earlier. I put Wilf in there. Oh no, Wilf's gone. I'd start Wilf on Sunday. Wilf's actually gone, so it feels quite strange saying that. It's a bit of a sort of Vardy thing, really. You've been at the club so long, so good luck, Wilf. But and I'd still play him, even though I think his best days are behind him. I still would have played him on Sunday. It's a bit of a toss-up for me. I mean, I said on the big show, I think our midfield's pretty rank. I'm not particularly impressed with any of them. And I think they're pretty interchangeable. Though, I mean, I guess I'll probably go Skip and Winks, I think, just because you never quite know what you're going to get with Samari. You might get him playing well for 10 minutes and then the ball bouncing off him and all that sort of thing. And Winks made a few nice passes. Skip, I noticed, making a few good runs. No one actually found him or noticed it last week, but he was doing those sorts of runs. And he's got good. I mean, he's energetic and he presses. What else he quite does, I don't really know. And I've never been as big on Winks as everyone else seems to be. I don't really get excited about players like that. I'll be honest. I mean, it's very much the kind of player I am. I make up for a lack of skill by throwing my weight around. That's about it. But in the midfield, yeah, I mean, I'd just like to see someone. I'd like to see Kieran Dewsbury Hall type in there. I do think we're missing a real threat in the midfield. And I say Skip's got some, and he has got the energy, but he just seems to be sort of headless chicken. But yeah. After all that, a bit down on the midfield, but it'll be Winks and Skip, I think. Tottenham midfield. God, strikes fear in your heart, doesn't it?
Well, it was the midfield that was signed to play in the Premier League, and they never did. They never played them together. I don't understand why. James, yourself, there's a case now as we move forward into the midfield and especially the forward line, or just behind the forward line. What forward line is? Do you play players who are more than likely going to be moving on from the club, or the club wants to move them on? Do you play them in the hope that they put themselves in a shop window, or that they are the best player in that position? Or do you play players who are more than likely going to be there after the transfer window and give them time to embed themselves in the side? I'll just answer the question first. I think it's a case of you play what you've got. So as we move forward, like an El Canoes, for example, would more than likely be a player who would play for me. And as we move forward, we'll talk about that. But Samare, for me, I wouldn't play him because even though we want to see him play, people have seen him at Leicester. And I'm sorry, he can look good in little flashes, in training, in little clips, etc. He can look good for 30 seconds in a game. Not for me, Clive, at all.
Well, I think Skip and Winks are a good pairing, particularly at championship level, in terms of being able to keep the ball, circulate it, small 5-yard passes, which is going to be at the centre of the way that we play football. And I think in some ways we want a relatively conservative central midfield if we're going to have a front three of Fatu, El Kanous, and Mavididi, and whoever the number 9 is going to be. I mean, at the minute, it's Ayew, who I think is going to be decent at championship level. I don't think he's Premier League level anymore, but I could see him getting 10 goals at championship level. In terms of your question about who we should play, yeah, to play who you've got, I mean, let's say El Kanous scores at the weekend to win us the game, but he gets sold next week. He's got us the 3 points. I think in terms of embedding in, we're only going to have 3 or 4 games until the deadline ends. So I think you've just got to try and prepare for both, really. Try and get the youngsters or the squad players some substitute time. And we'll have the League Cup as well soon. I imagine that we'll be able to play a second 11. So, yeah, I think we should just... If I was Cervantes, I mean, I would be substantially thinner and better looking. But I think, you've got to just proceed as if this is the team, really. But obviously, he's going to know more about who's more likely to go or not than we are. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely play El Kanous and Fatu and Samare at some point, probably on Sunday.
Play the cards that you're dealt. I'm firmly in the camp of playing Skip and Winks. You play Skip and Winks, Samare. Do you know what? I wouldn't even have him on the bench. I really wouldn't have him on the bench. I just get him out of the club. I just don't want him. And there you go. I think there'll be players who could play, especially in this first game, and also, and we'll come on to the game against Huddersfield shortly. Looking at the forward line, one side Mavididi, one side Fatawu. I think it's obvious you play El Kanous again. And also you say to him, because he ain't stupid. I mean, he might be. I don't know him, but yeah, he just might be dumb. But anyway, he knows that he's more than likely going to leave. Go and play. Go and get the move. Go and get the move. Don't go to Leeds. Don't go to West Ham. Try and get that move to a bigger club, to a Villa or somewhere like that. If you start on Sunday and you score a hat-trick and look brilliant, you might get a move to the continent. That's what I'd be saying to El Kanous. And also, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We can cross that road when we get there. But for now, yeah, I would play him right behind a centre forward. And the centre forward, I think it's very, very easy. You got Patson Daka and you got Ayew, and I think you play both. I think you play one from the start. Which one? I don't care. More than likely, probably for me, maybe Daka, and then you bring on an Ayew, and then you look to just completely flip them round against Huddersfield. I think it's quite easy who would play. Maybe you might want Ayew, you might want Daka. But I'll just turn the conversation round because, again, we're talking about 30-minute podcast here on For Fox 8 with the preview, with the FPL show, with the big show, and with the champions 10 years on. Easy listening, easy bite-sized listening. When you look at the League Cup game coming up, you can then just completely change the side. If someone like a Monga gets 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes on Saturday, on Sunday, hopefully we're 10-0 up and we can just bring him on a lot earlier. The whole side can change. So it's quite a nice position for Cifuentes to be in, or Cifuentes to be in. Joe, don't you think? Because whatever he plays on Saturday, he can turn to a player and go, who hasn't started, McAteer, for example, and go, look, you're starting on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever we play Huddersfield on Tuesday, isn't it? Wednesday, there you go. It shows what I know. It's a bloody preview, and I don't know when we're playing. So you can turn to a McAteer and go, look, you're going to be playing on Wednesday. Get yourself ready for that. It's quite a nice start to the season when you can do that.
Well, it's the plus side of having a bloated squad, I suppose, isn't it? That you've pretty much got. I mean, we do have, particularly championship-wise, it seems to me we've got 2 good players in every position, pretty much. Barring, a couple of mild injuries here and there. So yeah, I think you're going to do that. So is that the League Cup straight away?
Yes, League Cup
Yeah,
away at Huddersfield, who are the favourites for League One and started with a win on Saturday. So
right.
it's not going to be easy.
No, and I guess I think I'd be using that, although it's tempting, like you say, to do a full 11 change, or and particularly with the younger players, you can't be playing them too much, no matter how much we all want to see them. That said, I still think you probably want to use it as a bit of a momentum. Getting some momentum to go forward. You don't want to start off with a narrow win against Sheffield Wednesday and a loss to Huddersfield or a draw or anything like that, do you really? You need to be getting those 2 games, good wins, like you say, and playing your best players, really, I think.
Yeah, I think with the Huddersfield game, I think it could be a no-brainer for the likes of a Monga, etc., and really go with the kids and go, look, lads, quite a nice pitch up at Huddersfield, big ground, nice ground, decent side. Go and play your stuff. And if you get beat, really, does it really matter?
I just think it's a bit early in the season, really. But I'm a fan. I just want to see us win every game, and by 5 goals. That's the kind of fan I am.
And that's the next question, Joe. That is the next question. What is going to happen on Sunday? What is the Joe prediction?
Yeah, well, despite my slight jitters today, I went on the club. They've got a match predictor where you can win prizes. That's all it says.
Lovely.
Win prizes. Yeah. And I'm not a gambling man, but I'll do anything that's free. And I've gone for 4-1. And on one of those sorts of games where you're cruising it and you scored a load of goals and you just sort of let in a stupid one because no one's really concentrating anymore because you've won the game sort of by half time. That's what I'd really like to have.
4-1, and the 1 is the consolation goal. That's how we like to start the season. James, how do you see it happening on Sunday?
Well, I was thinking very similar, but a 3-1 instead of 4-1 was my prediction. I mean, hopefully, I understand what Joe was saying earlier about will this be galvanizing for Sheffield Wednesday? I don't think it necessarily will be. I think it's very hard when you've not had a pre-season, and I think a lot of these players' connection to the club is probably quite severed. I think they'll still try, but I think they're going to be a bit of a mess of a team. And so I can see the game going that we'll go 2-0 up quite early, something like that, or we'll score quite early, and then it'll just be kind of cruise control. And that would be great if that would happen, so that we can play the game more tactically, think more about patterns, concentrate on that side of things rather than having to think about like attacking or the emotional side of trying to get the win. So yeah, I think we should win, and if we don't win, then some serious worries.
Yeah, I think so. Jono, he actually thinks that we're going to smash them 4 or 5, and their heads will go down when we score early. And now we're recording the podcast live in terms of you can see us. Again, go to YouTube, type in for Fox 8 Podcasts, and you'll be able to find all of them there. Again, the previewing all the games coming up, the big show, talking all things Leicester, a little bit mad, me going waxing lyrical about the pink kit. We'll be talking all things the 10 years since we won the Champions, 10 years on, and also the FPL show as well, talking all things FPL and fancy podcast. But what fancy football, what I don't want is a little clip of me saying something stupid, to go viral. That would be really silly. But as I look out the window, what is that? Over here is the sea. I can see there is a ship coming in, and it reads on the side, HMS Piss the League is coming to harbour. Let me just shut that noise. And it starts on Sunday, and it starts with a 5-0 win. Sorry, Sheffield Wednesday, But for me, if I was you, you're having a protest and you're not coming in for the first 5 minutes. If I was you, I wouldn't bother coming in at all. Stay in the boozer. It's going to be a lovely old day, 27 degrees. Stay in the beer garden. It's going to be a 5-star performance. Fatawi's going to run riots. We're going to be turning down bids left, right, and centre from all and sundry for him. And on Sunday, it's going to be a winning start for Leicester. Come on, City. That's the preview. And we've got 3 wins for Leicester.